Mason Mount. I think that it is no exaggeration and that most of you would agree that Mason Mount's career so far has been both thrilling and inspiring. The 22-year-old Chelsea star has been on the rise for some time, coming through Chelsea's ranks as a young player, going on a few loan spells, and now has a Champions League under his belt. At some point in his career, Mason Mount was being mocked for simply being someone who worked hard but didn't have much talent. This was further escalated when Mount would bench the likes of Jack Grealish and James Maddison in the national team in captaining Chelsea at such a young age. What was later shown was that Mason was in fact extremely talented and that the reason why he kept playing was simply because he deserved it. In this video I am going to dive a little deeper into Mason Mount's career, his early years, the loan spells and the challenges he faced in the Netherlands, his time with Lampard both in Derby and Chelsea, and finally what he did last season, both in the Champions League and Euros. So let's go back to the 2017-2018 season, the year Mason was loaned to Eredivisie side Vitesse Arnhem. I could go back to his academy years and talk about how a brilliant player he was and all the struggles he went through as a boy from Portsmouth playing at Chelsea's academy and etc. But I think that the 2017-2018 season, the loan year, is a good start to point out where I want to take this video. Okay, the 2017-2018 season. For many players, loan outs are the graveyard of their careers. You know, a player is doing well, but the manager doesn't feel confident that they'll be able to take the pressure from the main squad. So on they go to a loan season, and another, and another, and another. You get the point. Loans aren't always good for players' development, but it is as they say, the greats always come through. I think that we can all agree that the 2019-2020 season was when Mount started taking big strides towards his career at Chelsea, when he finally locked in a spot in the starting 11. However, this didn't come as a surprise to Arnhem fans or hardcore Chelsea fans that followed the academy. This is because Mason has always been excellent everywhere he goes. In the specific season that I'm talking about, Mason played 38 games and scored 14 goals, helping Arnhem in the Europa League and to a 6th place finish. Out of those 14 goals, 9 came from the Eredivisie League with another 8 assists. To add to this amazing output, Mason also averaged 1.1 tackles per game. If this isn't impressive, I don't know what is. 17 goal contributions as an 18-year-old loanee in another country. This must have been a very tough time in Mason's career, but as I said before, the greats always come through, and Mason was taking the first steps into becoming a great. A year after that, Mason was sent on loan again, this time to Derby to join forces with Frank Lampard to help the Rams in the Championship. That year they managed to get all the way to the Championship playoff, and with that, and I think more importantly to this story, Mason was attracting even more the eyes of Chelsea and showing that this was enough of loans. He was good enough to play for the first team. With stories about how Mason was able to wow his teammates at Derby after his training session, Derby is another place where Mason's success was never doubted. That season of the Rams, Mason managed to register 8 goals and 4 assists in the Championship. These numbers are once again fantastic, and I don't want to give the idea that they are to be taken for granted just because of his talent, but it was kind of expected. If Mason wanted a place in the first team, he had to deliver this type of output. What I want to shine light on, however, is the other stats that rarely are mentioned and that I think further emphasize how good Mason really was that season. Mason is of course a creative player, hardworking too. So let's look at that. In terms of creativity, Mason averaged 1.1 crosses per game, 1.1 chipped passes per game, 1.6 long balls per game, 20 passes in the opposition half, and most important of all, 7 big chances created. 7 big chances created. When analysing how creative a player is, sometimes assists lie. Especially when, with no offense to Derby or any players that played with Mason that season, his teammates were not up to par with the elite level of players that Mason was about to play with in a year. Assists are a dodgy number because it requires the player in the receiving end to finish the job. Big chances created, however, show us how a player is really able to set up his teammates. Mason registered 7, which means he could have had another 3 assists. He also averaged 1.1 key passes per game. Key passes is another stat which is more reliable than assists to determine a player's creativity. As a parallel to Mason's rising career, Chelsea had just finished third led by Mauricio Sarri. Sarri left at the end of the season to Juventus and Chelsea were in need of a manager. Well, who better than club legend and Derby County manager Frank Lampard, who had just finished an amazing run. Well, that is where the story goes next. Frank Lampard was given the job and with him, he took Mason. I just want to make a quick side note at this point of the video. At this time, things weren't all butterflies and rainbows for Mason, and the public opinion on him was quite different. Yes, Derby, Chelsea and Arnhem fans knew Mason and knew everything that he was about, but the rest of the world didn't. Questions about how good Mason really was began to rise and eventually led to the question no one wants to hear. Was he here just because of Lampard? We all know that isn't true now, but these were some of the questions around Mason. Before captaining Chelsea, before winning the Champions League, before locking in a place in England's starting 11 at the Euros. I just brought this up because it would like to show how great Mason really is, especially to overcome all of the nonsense around him. So, the 2019-2020 Premier League season. We all know how weird it was and why, so let's just leave that part of the video. Lampard brought in Mason and a bunch of other young players with him to start his new project at Chelsea. There were high expectations for Chelsea and Mason of course, and once again, he didn't shy away from the big stage. This is first highlighted by Mason's adaptability. Mason played in a variety of positions this season, whether left wing, centre mid or attacking midfielder, but always managing to play very well. As I said before, this was the beginning of a new project at Chelsea, with the exodus of Sarri and Hazard and the genesis of Lampard's managing career and other young players coming through. Mason's adaptability and talent were of course a major asset. Mason's confidence is also something to shine some light on. In his first year with the Blues, he averaged 2.1 shots per game, with some of those coming from long-range efforts as instructed by Lampard. His defensive output did drop a little, but that was to be expected as he was now playing with the elite of world football. However, his tackles per game did not drop as he kept averaging 1 tackle per game, as he done both in Arnhem and Derby. All in all, it was a good first season for Mount. He finished the season with 7 goals and 5 assists in 37 games in his first ever Premier League campaign. Now, let's go back to last season, and this is where Mason's career took a massive step forward. Unfortunately for Lampard, he was sacked during the season for a series of bad results. But in came Tuchel, who would prove himself as an elite manager once again after his dreadful years in PSG. Last season, Mason had a major improvement. In 36 games last season in the Premier League, Mason scored 6 goals and 5 assists. To be honest, a little bit lower than what was expected from what we had seen in prior season, but still alright. What went up however, and again, this is why it is important to look at every stat, were his tackles per games, his chances created, his long balls, his crosses. In short, he improved his all-around game, but the final product just wasn't there. To be fair, it wasn't all his fault, as the whole Chelsea squad underperformed last season in the Premier League. Last season, Mason averaged 2.1 tackles per game, his highest so far after only 1 season in the Premier League, which screams at his tenacity and willingness to get the ball back no matter what. 1.7 crosses per game, 1.6 long balls per game, 2.4 key passes per game, and created 13 big chances. Talk about improvement. Mason literally doubled up on every aspect of his game. He improved everything. Then comes the Champions League, the biggest stage in club football, and Mason went on to win it with Chelsea. In 9 games in the Champions League, Mason registered 2 goals and 2 assists. He also created 4 big chances, averaged 1.1 key passes per game, and kept his pressing tenacity, which is shown by his 1.5 tackles per game. Mason was key to Chelsea's success in the Champions League, starting 11 out of a possible 13 games. Afterwards, Mason went on to feature at the Euros, where he also played well, making it all the way to the finals with the English squad. Although he didn't score a single goal, Mason showed that you don't need to score goals to be impactful. Mason chipped in with 1 assist, created 3 big chances, averaged 1.6 key passes per game, and 2.2 tackles per game. Not goals, but still crucial to the team's excellent defensive form. All of this to say that Mason is a great player, Chelsea's golden boy who I wish nothing but the best moving forward. Mason is an example to every player coming up. Thank you very much for watching the video until the end. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more game analysis, football history, individual performances, top 10s, etc. This is the beginning of something special and it would mean the world to me if you subscribed and helped me to grow this channel.